Finally, after over a year of speculation, announcement that Tidal will be stopping MQA, it is happening now, this year, or rather, very soon. You might have heard this being mentioned, okay, over a year ago that Tidal is stopping MQA. There was a buzz about it, and I don't want to dig too much about it, but let's just have a look at what's happening now. If you are a subscriber and a hardcore user of Tidal like me, you might have received an email like this. Let me just share with you, okay? This is an email from Tidal sent to all of the subscriber, and what it says is that basically, hi Andy, on July 24, year 2024, we are replacing the music in Tidal MQA catalog with FLAC version. Okay, as simple as that. And if you click on the link here, you go to this page, upcoming changes to audio format. So this one here, will I still be able to access music in MQA and 360 reality audio on Tidal? Okay, no. The short answer is no, especially on July 24, 2024. Okay, now let's just stop there and reflect on the situation that we have. Let's just try to understand the situation. What is MQA? What is FLAC? And what is whatever it is, the audio format that we are seeing nowadays. For as long as I can remember, I have always been a user of FLAC file format, which is essentially a compression medium, okay, for PCM or even DSD. And let me just quickly show to you what I have on my PC here, okay. Just gonna show you my library file. I am a hardcore user of FLAC files, or should I say local audio playback. And I have a collection of in excess. Let me just find out. Let's just do this. And yeah, almost 3,000 files in this particular folder, all of them FLAC format, and it's 132 GB of music in this particular folder. And I do have some other in other my storage location, but this is what I normally use. And other than that, I will be using quite a lot of Tidal here, as you can see, okay? Because Tidal provide the kind of convenience of discovering new music without the need to purchase it, okay? So that is something which I really appreciate. But let's just go back to the format. So what is MQA? MQA is essentially another compression format, okay? Or I would even describe it as an origami. So what is origami? Origami, if you know anything about it, is a method of folding, okay? Like a paper, folding it into a particular compact size. And then in the case of MQA, when it is being issued as a playback, okay, what it does is that unfolding. So that's why normally you would hear that MQA being described as unfolding rather than playback, okay? Because you unfold an origami to experience the final product, which is the output itself. So what's special about MQA is that it is kind of like, a proprietary mechanism at which, for example, I am the artist, okay? I have a master recording, and usually that is in PCM format, okay? The highest resolution possible in PCM format, usually in 92 or 192 kind of resolution. And then that original master will be provided to Tidal in this example, and Tidal will have the liberty to use the MQA folding to fold it. In the process of folding it, unlike FLAC, okay, it is not exactly bit perfect. So the keyword here is bit perfect, meaning that it entirely depends on Tidal or whoever that's folding that file into MQA master, okay, to determine what kind of mixing, what kind of sound output they would want. So it could differ, and this is one of the reasons you might hear that certain artists have voiced a strong displeasure or dislike towards this mechanism, because they said that if you are hearing an MQA which is being folded by somebody else, non-certified MQA provider, it could sound different from how they intend it. So that is one thing about MQA. There's a flexibility towards how the delivery is being presented to the listener, depending on who folds it. In this case, it is Tidal. And I will touch a bit more on that as well after this. But with FLAC format, It is just essentially whichever that the artist or the owner of the source would compress it in lossless format without losing anything, and the playback also in FLAC would present to you the sound it was intended originally. There's no changes there, meaning that Tidal would not have any kind of control over how the sound will be delivered to the listener. Okay, so having said that, let's just quickly have a look at what we have in Tidal. Okay, for example, I have a few collection here. Let me just quickly show, which is kind of a bit funny. Let me just touch on this subject. If you know anything about this particular band, this is a very old band, okay? And this particular album was released in 1985. Probably much older than many of you listening to this video right now. And for example, if I do playback on this particular song, Outbreak of Evil, it is being offered in both maximum and MQA, which means that maximum PCM and also MQA. And currently, I am playing MQA, Master Quality Authenticated. Okay. So the question right now is that, do I hear any kind of difference? Then my answer would be no, because be it MQA or non-MQA maximum, it is just simply being played back as it was. Okay. And the original recording for this particular album was in lo-fi, low fidelity. So what I'm trying to say here is that regardless, okay, of how the PCM is being playback, either through MQA M folding or just straight PCM, it sounded the same because both have already reached to a certain threshold which is already maximum. However, MQA is especially useful if you look at something like this. Okay, let's just have a look at something a bit more modern. Okay, and let's just go to my test playlist here. I have this one particular song, which is from Madonna. Okay, and Madonna also offer maximum and MQA. Now, this is interesting. Okay, I have actually heard better output coming from the FLAC version of this Madonna instead of the MQA. And I will tell you why. Okay, on a very resolving equipment, okay, especially if you have something which is very analytical, I actually heard some sort of artifact in the sound itself, especially in the upper frequency, because the unfolding process of the MQA kind of like compress certain region of the sound, or perhaps there was a bit of adjustment to the tuning of the sound itself, the mixing of it during the folding of the MQA. So in this case, I just gonna openly declare that I like the original PCM version than the MQA version, because the original PCM version does not contain any kind of that artifact, the clipping in the upper frequency. So what I'm trying to say here is that the higher the resolution of that original source, depending on who encode it, the MQA might offer different kind of experience to the user. But if you want to hear the original interpretation of the audio, I would say that go for FLAC file rather than MQA. So in short, what does it mean to you as a user? What does it mean to me as a user? What it means is that I am not worried at all that MQA will no longer be available in Tidal, because I have always depend on FLAC. I always prefer something which is non-MQA for playback, because to me, MQA is no different from MP4 or even highly hyped up MP3. It is some sort of a lossy compression due to that perceived, at least from my own experience, I am hearing a bit of clipping, when it unfolds, especially when streamed. I get better result always using FLAC file. So to me, nothing to worry about when Tidal decided to stop MQA.